Hello everyone, Tom with Capo Fetish. Today let's talk about favorite 70s hard rock albums. I'm going to start off here with one from 1976. It is a flawless record. A band that doesn't really get enough credit. I think they were totally unique and original. I'm talking about Thin Lizzy, their breakthrough album Jailbreak. So the big hit, of course, it's still being played tons on classic rock radio today, is The Boys Are Back in Town. But I think one of the highlights of this album is the song, the Cowboy Song, which is just absolutely life-affirming. And what a great live staple. I remember seeing Thin Lizzy back in 1980 at the Santa Monica Civic, and that was one of the highlights. I remember from that moment on, I became a fan. I had to get this album and a few others after seeing that show. It was so like transcendent and amazing. And another thing too is Phil Lynott. What a real talent, right? I mean, the guy, he was really poetic. He had amazing twists and turns and lyrics, and an amazing bass player, charismatic performer. I mean, the guy had everything going for him, and unfortunately, the drugs took him. But another highlight of this album and just the band in general are the guitarists, Scott Gorham and Brian Robertson. The way they synchronize their parts together is just amazing. Brian Downey is a fine drummer. I think the whole album is just fantastic from beginning to end, along with, The Boys Are Back in Town. Another song that got a lot of airplay was the title track, Jailbreak. Angel from the Coast is amazing. Romeo and the Lonely Girl Warriors, Emerald. Just a fantastic record from start to finish. Jailbreak from Thin Lizzy from 1976. And by the way, none of these are ranked in any type of order. We're just going completely random today on Capo Fetish. An incredible live performance from 1971. Humble Pie's performance, Rockin' the Fillmore. I'm a huge Steve Marriott fan. I love the Small Faces, and I'm not as big on Humble Pie as the Small Faces, but there are some Humble Pie albums and tracks that I just really dig. I love this album, I think, more than even their studio albums, even though their earlier studio albums were more of a kind of folk rock variety. An album like, say, As Safe as Yesterday is completely different than the boogie woogie live stuff here on Rockin' the Fillmore. I think one of the highlights is the last track, I Don't Need No Doctor. Incredible track, written by Ashford and Simpson. And their version on here is completely different than the original or other versions that have been recorded over the years. Hallelujah, I Love Her So, a complete side dedicated to the track I Walk on Gilded Splinters from Dr. John. The side one starts off with 4-Day Creep, I'm Ready, Stone Cold Fever. So the album prior to this, Rock On, was the last album that Peter Frampton would appear on a Humble Pie record. This is his last, probably his last tour with them, and the last album to feature Peter Frampton. And then the irony is that they would become more popular for a while without Frampton. The next album, Smokin', with 30 Days in the Hole, etc. But yeah, just about 4 or 5 years later, Frampton would become one of the biggest stars on the planet with Frampton Comes Alive. Would outdo the even the popularity of Humble Pie. So anyway, this a smoking album. Steve Marriott, I think still to this day, one of the most charismatic performers ever to hit a rock and roll stage. I mean, the guy had the pipes, he had the charisma, he didn't take himself too seriously, he really got the audience involved. I mean, just pure talent. Steve Marriott, we lost him early, but his music lasts forever. So Humble Pie, performance, Rockin' the Fillmore. One of my favorites on this list, and an album I still play to this day, when I'm in a certain kind of mood and I need some just dirty, sludgy, down and dirty music, I love Aerosmith's Rocks. I think they never bettered this album. When you look at what they later became, these MTV darlings with Love in an Elevator, this couldn't be any further from that crap. This is an amazing album from start to finish. I love the the clever quips that Steven Tyler comes up with in tracks like, Back in the Saddle and, Rats in the Cellar. He's a clever little wordsmith, Steven Tyler, as well as a great performer. Back in the Saddle, Last Child have been played a lot. They're great tracks. Last Child has such an amazing groove. Some of the rockers like Rats in the Cellar, that song combination at Inside One rocks. Sick as a Dog. My favorite track on here, Lickin' a Promise. I always wanted to do a cover of that with my band back in the day, but we never got around to it. Such an absolute freaking great rock and roll album from start to finish. And, you know, it's timeless sounding. It's not overproduced. That's what I love about a lot of 1970s albums, is that they sound warm, natural. It's that analog tape, not that digitized shit that we hear today with so much music. Get the Let Out, Nobody's Fault. I mean, it's just one of the greatest hard rock albums of all time. It's just a great rock and roll record. Aerosmith, Rocks from 1976, and appropriately titled, you know, Rocks. That's exactly what the album does. It rocks. My favorite Led Zeppelin album. I like this album because of the range on it. I know a lot of their other albums had range, but I really love this album from start to finish. There's just a flow about it that I've always dug. I'm talking about Houses of the Holy from 1973. I love that opening track. The song remains the same. That kind of 12-string electric thing that Jimmy Page is doing, and it's very prog sounding and all over the map. And I guess Plant's voice has been altered because no one can sound that high. I mean, it's just, I think he had lost his voice around 72, that high range that he had there for a few years. And I think they were kind of making effort in the studio with some tricks. And that is one track where you could tell that there's some vocal manipulation going on there with Song Remains the Same. The Rain Song is one of their greatest epic ballads. I love most of Led Zeppelin's ballads, like Thank You, and That's the Way, and Tangerine. And this one is no exception. The Rain Song is absolutely amazing. Over the Hills and Far Away, an all-time top 3 Led Zeppelin track. It's just so uplifting, and I love the Jimmy Page acoustic guitar part that carries the track. It's just amazing. They tried for a little funk on the crunge, which some people don't dig. I like it. I think it's a fun track. Robert Plant really going off on some vocal histrionics on that track. Dancing Days is great. In fact, the other day on this jazz station I listened to on our TV, it's one of those TV, you know, satellite type of channel, whatever you want to call it. They have a jazz station, and I heard this jazz version of Dancing Days, which was kind of cool with the keyboard. Do 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 do. And then Dire Maker throwing a little bit of reggae vibe in there. No Quarter is really strange and foreboding sounding. I love that keyboard sound. And then it ends with The Ocean, I think one of their great rockers. Such a great groove. I think this is just a well-produced, like all their albums, a well-produced, very rangy album for especially after Zeppelin 4. I think this is one of their greats. So Houses of the Holy from 1973. Another great live album from Neil Young, Live Russ from 79. The first side is all acoustic, like Sugar Mountain, Comes a Time, but from side 2 on, it is an absolute hard rock fest. Songs like Sedan Delivery, Powderfinger, the live versions of Cinnamon Girl are amazing. Like a Hurricane, Hey Hey My Into the Black. Just, I mean, that guitar is so thick and grungy and distorted. The Loner this is a great version, that track from his first album, his debut album. On here, it gets a really nice, loud, electric feel. It's just a fantastic live album. When You Dance, I Can Really Love from After the Gold Rush gets a live airing on here. If you've never seen the film, it is a magical experience. I remember seeing this film with The Kids Are All Right back in the theater in 1979. What a great double bill. I remember we stayed for both of those movies twice, so we were in the theater for like pretty much most of the day. So Live Rust, Neil Young from 79, just another great hard rock album. Great live album. An album that pretty much is the foundation of stoner rock, doom metal, sludge metal, and what other metal you want to throw in there. I don't even know if was metal even the term back in 1971 when this album came out. I don't know. I think it was just called hard rock. But anyway, Black Sabbath's Master of Reality. This is my favorite album of theirs. And it's really quick. I like albums that are like, they get to the point in about 30, 35 minutes. It's an absolute riff fest, riffs upon riffs. Tracks like After Forever have just multiple riffs going on, and Lord of This World has amazing riffs. Call Me Crazy, but one of my favorite songs on here is the ballad Solitude, featuring Tony Iommi on flute and piano. It has this kind of like Renaissance era feel to it. It's like really, really cool and really breaks up the album nice. It's kind of how I feel about the track on Paranoid. What is that one? Oh my God, I'm going to forget what it is. Planet Caravan. Planet Caravan. I like when they do these like oddball ballads thrown in between all this evil shit. It's really cool. And then, of course, most of their albums also feature like a Tony Iommi classical guitar piece, acoustic classical guitar piece, like Embryo on here. And there's other tracks on other albums like Fluff. But yeah, I think it's a fantastic record. I love riffs. I could listen to a whole album of this without Ozzy Osbourne on lead vocals and just listen to the really cool rhythm section of Butler and Ward and just Iommi playing those riffs. That's how hypnotic they are. So fantastic album. Master of Reality, Black Sabbath, 71. The Who. Come on, Live at Leeds from 1970. This album is incredible. This is an original here I picked up years ago at a Rhino parking lot sale, and has all these little goodies in here, like this picture, and they got this poster, which millions of shirts have been made out of right here. You've got like these press releases and stuff in here. This is a kind of a cool package for 1970, right? Making it look authentic and bootlegged. Pretty cool. I mean, they really went all out here with the packaging. Look at that. Wow. Pretty cool. But this really was The Who at their live peak. I think they were starting to really get amazing around 68, 69. But this is definitely them at their peak. The two cornerstones of the album, My Generation, Magic Bus, these extended versions of these songs, with again, just almost like on the spot made up riffs, and Pete Townsend, his guitar never sounded better than on this album. I assume he's playing an SG like he did at Woodstock and Isle of Wight, but pretty amazing. And then of course I like the extended version that came out in the 90s with 2 CDs. The one has all of the Tommy performance, and then the full performance of the non-Tommy songs on the other disc. That is a must to have. So Live at Leeds, 1970, Who at their peak live. It's weird when you see the Who now. I know they're older and everything, but they need all these backup musicians to make up for, you know, Moon and Entwistle. But here it was just the 4 of them making quite a noise. And when it comes to loud, bombastic rock, it doesn't get much better than this. The Who, Live at Leeds, 1970. When it comes to just a fun party record with a lot of unintentional comedy, I find this album very humorous, especially the in-between song banter between the songs. I'm talking about Kiss Alive from 1975. When I was in college, a few friends of mine, we went to Catalina Island for a weekend. One of our friends brought a ghetto blaster, and we only had 2 cassettes, and we were listening to these same cassettes all weekend long. It was Appetite for Destruction by Guns N' Roses and this one. And by the time the trip was over, we had memorized like this entire album, all the in-between song banter. Paul Stanley, really, I mean, he really had all the cliche things going on here on this particular performance. I was never a huge Kiss fan, but I find this album extremely entertaining. The songs too, like, what is it, Black Diamond, that the Replacements later covered, and they did a very faithful rendition on the Let It Be album. That drum solo on 100,000 Years by Peter Criss, with that kind of effect going on, that kind of phase effect. Rock Bottom, Cold Gin, just a fun party album. Kiss Alive, with a bazillion edits and overdubs, as we all know, right? This was highly edited and overdubbed, as we know, like a lot of live albums were from the 70s. So Kiss Alive, 75. I could have put in Van Halen 1, but I actually like Van Halen 2 better. I think this has some really cool tracks, like DOA, Out of Love, Bottoms Up. Their version of You're No Good is really cool. Dance the Night Away is a great pop track. Yeah, another just great studio party album. If I had to choose my favorite Van Halen album, and I only like the Roth era, I don't like the Sammy Hagar era. I think Roth really made this band. I know the musicianship is amazing, but you got to have that charismatic frontman to really put it out there. And Roth never took himself seriously. I like hard rock bands and metal bands that don't take themselves seriously. So Van Halen 2 is just a great party record. Women and Children First is probably my favorite. That's probably their most loosest fun record. but I love Van Halen II. I love the whole Roth era. So 1979's Van Halen II. And last but not least, probably my favorite on this entire list. I mean, it doesn't get much better when it comes to hooks and just guitar riffs and power and just absolute just, you know what I mean? AC/DC's Highway to Hell from 79. I mean, this is their best album, in my opinion. Some people may say Back in Black. To me, it's Highway to Hell from start to finish. My favorite track on here, Walk All Over You. It is like, it has the energy of a punk band. I mean, it's full-on punk energy, full-on hooks. Bon Scott never sounded better than on this album. He as well comes up with a lot of great one-liners and quips. The title track is epic. Girls Got Rhythm, Walk All Over You, Touch Too Much, Beating Around the Bush has that just amazing little guitar lick in the beginning. Pretty much establishes itself throughout the song. Fantastic. Side 2, Shot Down in Flames, Get It Hot, If You Want Blood, Love Hungry Man, and I love the ending, Night Prowler. So good. It's just good, slow, dirty blues with great vocal by Bon Scott. So yeah, this to me, along with like Rocks, absolute just bangers from the 70s as far as hard rock goes. Just on every track, hook-filled, great riffs, great energy. AC/DC, Highway to Hell from 79. What are your favorite 70s hard rock albums? Let me know in the comment section. As always, thanks for watching. If you dig the content across this channel, please press subscribe. We'll see you soon. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.